The morning started like any other at Buckingham Palace until Prince William locked eyes with Royal Guard Thomas Bennett and uttered 3 words that would change everything. "You re-dismissed." Now, what seemed like a simple firing turned into something far more shocking. The guard's response wasn't just unexpected. It revealed a secret that had been hidden for years, one that would force the prince to make an impossible choice between duty and humanity. Within hours, the story would spread beyond the palace walls, sparking a chain of events that even the royal family couldn't control. If you love true stories about courage, redemption, and standing up for what's right, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Hit that like button if you're already hooked, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss these incredible real-life tales. Trust me, this story has twists you won't see coming. Share it with someone who needs to hear an inspiring story today. The sun was just beginning to rise over Buckingham Palace on that cold Tuesday morning in March. The golden light touched the old stone walls, making them glow. Everything looked peaceful and perfect, just like every other day. But inside the palace, something was about to happen that nobody expected. Prince William walked through the long hallway with quick steps. He had an important meeting that morning with foreign visitors. His shoes made soft sounds on the marble floor. Everything had to be perfect today. The royal family never showed weakness. They never made mistakes. At least, that's what people believed. Outside the main entrance, 6 royal guards stood in their famous red uniforms and tall black hats. They stood perfectly still, like statues. Their faces showed no emotion. This was their job. They protected the palace and the royal family. They had to be strong, alert, and ready for anything. Thomas Bennett was one of these guards. He was 32 years old and had worked at the palace for 5 years. He loved his job. Being a royal guard was a great honor. His father had been a royal guard too. Thomas always dreamed of following in his father's footsteps. When he finally got the position, it was the happiest day of his life. But today, Thomas was not himself. His eyes looked tired. His hands shook slightly, though he tried to hide it. He had not slept well in weeks. His mind was far away, thinking about things that guards should never think about while on duty. Prince William stepped outside. He looked at each guard as he walked past them. This was his routine. He always checked everything himself. He noticed small details that others might miss. That's what made him a good leader. Then William stopped. His eyes fixed on Thomas. Something was wrong. The guard's uniform button was undone. His rifle was held at a slightly wrong angle. These were small things, but they mattered. In the Royal Guard, everything had to be exact. "Guard Bennett," Prince William said in a firm voice. Thomas's heart jumped. He stood even straighter and looked ahead. "Yes, Your Royal Highness," he answered. "Your button is undone," William said. "And your posture is incorrect." Thomas looked down quickly. His face turned red. He was embarrassed. How could he make such a mistake? He tried to fix the button with shaking hands. Other guards stayed perfectly still, but their eyes moved slightly. They wanted to see what would happen. Palace staff members who were nearby also stopped to watch. Word spread quickly through whispers. Something unusual was happening. Prince William stepped closer to Thomas. He studied the guard's face. He saw the dark circles under his eyes. He saw the way Thomas's hands trembled. He saw something else too, fear and sadness. "How long have you been awake, Guard Bennett?" William asked. Thomas swallowed hard. I slept, Your Highness." "That's not what I asked," William said. His voice was cold now. "How long have you been awake?" Thomas didn't answer. He couldn't lie to the prince, but he also couldn't tell the truth. The truth was too complicated, too painful. "Answer me," William commanded. "2 days, Your Highness," Thomas finally admitted. His voice was quiet. The other guards stayed frozen, but inside they were shocked. 2 days without sleep? That was dangerous. A guard needed to be alert. Lives depended on it. Prince William's face became serious. You know the rules, Guard Bennett. You know what this means? Thomas nodded slowly. Yes, he knew. He had broken the most important rule. A royal guard must always be at his best. There were no excuses, no exceptions. Do you have anything to say? William asked. Thomas wanted to explain. He wanted to tell the prince about his 7-year-old daughter Emma. She was sick, very sick. The doctor said she needed special treatment that cost a lot of money. Thomas had been working extra jobs at night to pay for it. He hadn't slept because he was trying to earn more money. Every penny mattered. His daughter's life mattered more than anything. But Thomas knew that personal problems were not an excuse. The rules were clear. He had accepted this when he became a royal guard. No, Your Highness, Thomas said quietly. I have nothing to say. Prince William looked at him for a long moment. The silence felt heavy. Everyone watching held their breath. They all knew what was coming next. Guard Thomas Bennett, William said in a loud, clear voice. You are dismissed from the Royal Guard. Effective immediately. Remove your uniform and leave the palace grounds. The words hit Thomas like a punch. He felt dizzy. This was his life. This job was everything to him. Without it, how would he pay for Emma's treatment? How would he support his family? You're dismissed. Now, William repeated. His voice was final. Thomas's hands shook as he began removing his red jacket. His fingers fumbled with the buttons. Around him, other guards stayed perfectly still. Staff members whispered to each other. Some looked sad. Others looked shocked. Thomas removed his tall black hat. He handed his rifle to another guard. His movements were slow, like he was in a dream. A bad dream. Prince William turned and walked away. He didn't look back. His duty was done. Rules were rules. There could be no weakness in the Royal Guard. Thomas stood there in just his white shirt and black pants. He looked small now, lost. All the pride and honor he once wore like armor were gone. He was just a man who had lost everything. As he walked toward the palace gates, people stared at him, some with pity, some with judgment. The morning sun that had looked so beautiful before now felt too bright, too harsh. Thomas didn't cry. Royal Guards don't cry, even when they're not Royal Guards anymore. But as he stepped through those gates for the last time, one thought filled his mind. What would he tell Emma? How could he explain that Daddy lost his job? That now they might not be able to save her? Behind him, the palace stood tall and perfect. Inside, Prince William continued with his day. The meeting with foreign visitors went well. Everything appeared normal. But nothing was normal anymore. This wasn't just a simple firing. This was the beginning of something much bigger. A story that would soon spread beyond the palace walls. A story that would change both men's lives forever. The guard was gone, but the consequences were just beginning.
Thomas walked through the streets of London like a ghost. People passed by him, but he didn't see them. Cars honked, but he didn't hear them. His mind was somewhere else, somewhere dark and painful. He reached a small apartment building in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't fancy. The paint on the walls was old and cracking, but it was home. He climbed the stairs slowly. His step felt heavy. His legs were tired. His heart was tired. Everything was tired. He opened the door to apartment number 12. Inside, his wife Sarah was sitting at the kitchen table. She looked up when she heard the door. Her face went pale when she saw him. "Thomas," she said. "Why are you home so early? What happened?" Thomas couldn't speak. He just stood there, still holding his Royal Guard jacket and hat in his hands. The symbols of everything he had lost. Sarah stood up quickly. She walked to him and touched his face. "Thomas, talk to me. What's wrong?" "I was fired," he finally said. His voice cracked. "I was fired from the Royal Guard." Sarah's hands covered her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. She knew what this meant. This wasn't just about a job. This was about their daughter. Their sweet Emma. "Oh God," Sarah whispered. "Oh God, no." They sat down together at the table. Thomas told her everything. How Prince William noticed his mistakes. How he couldn't hide his exhaustion anymore. How he was dismissed in front of everyone. I tried, Thomas said. Tears ran down his face now. I tried so hard to keep going. But I couldn't do it anymore. My body just gave up. Sarah held his hand. She was crying too. This isn't your fault, she said. None of this is your fault. But Thomas felt like it was. He felt like he had failed everyone. His family. His duty. His father's memory. Let's go back 6 months. Back to when everything changed. Thomas had been so happy then. He was a Royal Guard. His wife Sarah worked as a nurse at a local hospital. Their daughter Emma was in 2nd grade. She loved reading books and drawing pictures. She was smart and funny and full of life. One day, Emma came home from school complaining about headaches. Sarah thought it was nothing serious. Maybe Emma needed glasses. Maybe she was just tired from studying. But the headaches got worse. Emma started feeling dizzy. She couldn't concentrate in class. Her teachers called Sarah and said Emma seemed confused sometimes. Sarah took Emma to the doctor. Then to another doctor. Then to a specialist. After many tests, they got the news that destroyed their world. Emma had a brain tumor. The word tumor felt like a knife in Thomas's heart. His little girl. His baby. How could this happen? The doctors said the tumor could be treated. There was hope. But the treatment was expensive. Very expensive. Even with insurance, they would need to pay thousands of pounds. Money they didn't have. Thomas and Sarah looked at all their options. They borrowed money from family. They used all their savings. They sold their car and took the bus instead. But it still wasn't enough. The treatment required special medicine that wasn't covered by their insurance. It cost £3,000 per month. Without it, the doctors said the tumor would grow. Emma's condition would get worse. Thomas couldn't let that happen. He would do anything to save his daughter. Anything. So he started working at night. After his shifts at the palace, he would go to a warehouse and load boxes until morning. Then he would shower quickly and go back to the palace for his guard duty. At first he managed okay. He was young and strong. He drank coffee to stay awake. He pushed through the exhaustion. But weeks turned into months. His body started breaking down. He couldn't sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a day. His hands developed tremors. His eyes hurt from being open so long. His mind became foggy. Sarah begged him to stop. You're going to make yourself sick, she said. We'll find another way. But there was no other way. Thomas had checked everywhere. They had applied for assistance programs. They had tried fundraising. Nothing worked fast enough. Emma needed the medicine now. Every night, Thomas would go into Emma's room before leaving for his warehouse job. He would watch her sleep. Her small body looked so fragile under the blankets. Her blonde hair spread across the pillow. She looked peaceful when she slept. Like she wasn't sick at all. I promise I'll save you, Thomas would whisper. I promise, baby girl. Emma didn't know how bad things were. They tried to keep her happy and normal. They smiled around her. They played games with her. They read her favorite stories. But Emma was smart. She knew something was wrong. She heard her parents talking late at night when they thought she was asleep. She saw the worry in their eyes. One day, Emma gave her father a drawing. It showed a man in a red uniform standing tall and proud. That's you, Daddy, she said. You're a hero. Thomas hung that drawing above his bed. Every time he felt like giving up, he looked at it. It reminded him why he was fighting so hard. But the human body has limits. No matter how strong the spirit is, the body can only take so much. Thomas was running on empty. He was like a machine with no fuel left. The night before he was fired, Thomas had worked at the warehouse until 5 in the morning. He moved boxes that weighed 50 pounds each. His back ached. His muscles screamed. But he kept going because every box meant more money. More money meant more medicine. More medicine meant Emma could live. He didn't go home that morning. There wasn't time. He went straight to the palace. He changed into his Royal Guard uniform in the locker room. He splashed cold water on his face. He looked at himself in the mirror. The man staring back at him looked like a stranger. His eyes were red and hollow. His skin was pale. He had lost weight. But he put on his tall black hat and stood up straight. He had a duty to perform. He lasted 4 hours before Prince William noticed. Now, sitting in his kitchen with Sarah, Thomas realized it was all over. The job was gone. The money was gone. Emma's treatment was in danger. What are we going to do? Sarah asked. Thomas didn't have an answer. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what to do. In Emma's room, they could hear her playing with her toys. She was singing a song from one of her favorite movies. Her voice was soft and sweet. She didn't know that her father had just lost everything trying to save her. She didn't know that her hero was broken. She didn't know that their whole world was falling apart. Thomas put his head in his hands. "I failed her," he said. "I failed our daughter." "No," Sarah said firmly. "You fought for her. You gave everything you had. That's not failure. That's love." But love didn't pay for medicine. Love didn't cure tumors. Love wasn't enough. Or was it? The next morning, Thomas woke up on the couch. He hadn't slept much. Maybe 2 hours. But this time it wasn't because of work. It was because of worry. He kept thinking about Emma's next doctor appointment. They needed to pay for her medicine by Friday. That was only 3 days away. Sarah was making breakfast in the kitchen. She looked tired too. Neither of them knew what to do next. Then Thomas's phone rang. It was his friend Marcus, another Royal Guard. "Thomas, mate," Marcus said. His voice sounded worried. "Have you seen the news?" "What news?" Thomas asked. "Turn on the television. Now." Thomas grabbed the remote and switched on the TV. Sarah came out of the kitchen to see what was happening. The morning news was on. A reporter stood outside Buckingham Palace. Behind her, tourists were taking pictures. "Breaking news this morning," the reporter said. "Sources inside Buckingham Palace have confirmed that Prince William dismissed a royal guard yesterday in what witnesses are calling a harsh and public humiliation." Thomas's heart stopped. This couldn't be happening. The reporter continued. "The guard, identified as Thomas Bennett, was reportedly fired on the spot for minor uniform infractions. Witnesses say the dismissal was unusually severe and happened in front of other staff members and guards." Sarah grabbed Thomas's hand. "Oh no," she whispered. The TV showed a video someone had recorded on their phone. It was shaky and taken from far away, but you could see Prince William talking to Thomas. You could see Thomas removing his uniform. The video had already been shared thousands of times on social media. Thomas felt sick. His private shame was now public. Everyone could see his worst moment. His phone started ringing again. Then again. Messages flooded in. Friends, family, old colleagues. Everyone wanted to know what happened. By noon, the story was everywhere. Every news channel talked about it. Every newspaper wrote articles. Social media exploded with opinions. Most people were angry at Prince William. "How could he be so cruel?" one person wrote on social media. "Firing someone publicly is wrong," another said. "Where is the compassion? The royal family thinks they're better than everyone else," someone else posted. People started sharing the video with angry comments. Some called Prince William heartless. Others said the royal family was out of touch with regular people. Thomas stayed inside his apartment. He was afraid to go outside. He didn't want people to recognize him. He didn't want to answer questions. But the reporters found him anyway. By afternoon, there were 3 news vans parked outside his building. Reporters knocked on his door. They called his phone. They wanted his story. Thomas didn't answer. He closed the curtains and stayed away from the windows. Then Sarah's sister called. "Thomas, you need to see this," she said. Another news channel was showing an interview. But not with Thomas. With someone else. It was Margaret, Thomas's mother. She was 70 years old and lived in a small house outside London. Somehow the reporters had found her. Margaret sat in her living room looking nervous but determined. The reporter asked her about Thomas. "My son is a good man," Margaret said. Her voice shook a little. "He worked so hard to become a royal guard. It was his dream. Just like his father before him." "Why do you think he was fired?" the reporter asked. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "Because he was trying to save his daughter's life." The reporter leaned forward. "What do you mean?" And then Margaret told the story. She told them about Emma. About the brain tumor. About the expensive treatment. About how Thomas worked 2 jobs to pay for the medicine. "He barely slept," Margaret said, wiping her eyes. "He was exhausted. But he never complained. He just kept working because he loves his little girl so much." Thomas watched the TV in shock. His mother had just told the whole country about Emma. About their struggles. About everything. Sarah sat down next to him. "She's trying to help," she said quietly. The reporter asked Margaret one more question. "What do you want people to know about your son?" Margaret looked directly at the camera. "I want people to know that my son is a hero. Not because he wore a fancy uniform. But because he sacrificed everything for his child. That's what real heroes do." The interview ended. The studio went silent for a moment. Even the news anchors looked emotional. Then the comments started flooding in. But this time they were different. "This changes everything," someone wrote. He was fired for trying to save his daughter? Another person posted. That's horrible. Prince William should be ashamed, many people said. Within hours the story shifted. People stopped blaming Thomas. They started blaming Prince William instead. A hashtag started trending on social media. #JusticeForThomas. Thousands of people shared it. Then tens of thousands. Then hundreds of thousands. People posted messages of support. Some offered to donate money to help with Emma's treatment. Others demanded that Prince William apologize. The story was no longer just about a fired guard. It became about something bigger. About fairness. About compassion. About how we treat people who are struggling. News programs invited experts to discuss the case. Some said Prince William had every right to enforce rules. Others said the punishment was too harsh given the circumstances. Rules are important, one expert said. But so is understanding. Prince William should have investigated why Guard Bennett was exhausted before firing him. By evening, the story had spread beyond England. International news picked it up. American channels reported it. European newspapers wrote articles. The whole world was watching. Inside Buckingham Palace there was panic. The palace communications team had emergency meetings. They tried to control the damage, but it was too late. The story was too big. The public reaction was too strong. A palace spokesperson gave a brief statement. The royal family does not comment on personnel matters. Prince William acted according to established protocols. But this answer didn't satisfy anyone. People wanted more. They wanted an explanation. They wanted justice. Prince William's own social media accounts were flooded with angry messages. People called him cold and uncaring. Some even called for him to apologize publicly. The palace had faced scandals before. But this felt different. This wasn't about politics or money. This was about a father trying to save his dying daughter. Everyone could relate to that. Everyone could understand that. The royal family's approval ratings started dropping. Polls showed that 60% of people thought Prince William had handled the situation badly. Inside his apartment, Thomas sat in darkness. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. His mother kept calling to apologize for doing the interview. Friends called to offer support. Strangers called to offer help. Emma came out of her room. She had been doing homework. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew something was wrong. "Daddy, why are there people outside?" she asked. Thomas picked her up and held her tight. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Just some confusion. It will be okay." But Thomas didn't know if it would be okay. His life had become a public spectacle. His family's private pain was now entertainment for millions of people. He had lost his job trying to save his daughter. Now he was losing his privacy too. Prince William sat in his private office at Kensington Palace. It was late at night. Everyone else had gone home. But he couldn't sleep. His desk was covered with newspapers. Every single one had the same story on the front page. His face. Thomas Bennett's face. The headline read, "Prince fires dying girl's father." William rubbed his eyes. He was tired. But more than that, he was troubled. He picked up his phone and scrolled through social media. The comments were harsh. People called him heartless. They said he didn't care about regular people. They said the royal family had lost touch with reality. "They don't understand," William said to himself. "I was following protocol. I was doing my duty." But even as he said the words, they felt hollow. Empty. His wife Kate walked into the office. She had been watching him worry all day. "You need to sleep," she said gently. "I can't," William replied. "Every time I close my eyes, I see that guard's face. Thomas Bennett. When I told him he was fired, he looked broken." Kate sat down next to him. "Did you know about his daughter?" William shook his head. "No, nobody told me. I just saw a guard who wasn't fit for duty. I saw someone who could put others at risk." "But now you know the truth," Kate said. "What are you going to do about it?" That was the question that kept William awake. What should he do? The next morning, William called his private secretary, Edward. "I need information," William said. "Everything about Thomas Bennett. His employment record. His family situation. Everything." Edward looked surprised. "Your Highness, the matter is closed. The guard was dismissed according to protocol." "Just get me the information," William said firmly. 2 hours later, Edward returned with a thick folder. Inside was Thomas's complete history. William read through it carefully. Thomas had an excellent record. 5 years of perfect service. No complaints. No problems. Multiple commendations for outstanding duty. Then William found the medical records. Not Thomas's records. His daughter's records. Emma Bennett, 7 years old. Diagnosed with a brain tumor 6 months ago. Requires ongoing treatment costing £3,000 per month. William's hands tightened on the papers. He kept reading. Thomas had applied for financial assistance through 3 different programs. All denied. He had borrowed money from family. Maxed out credit cards. Sold his car. Then William found the employment records from the warehouse. Thomas had been working night shifts. Every single night. For 4 months straight. William sat back in his chair. The full picture was now clear. Thomas hadn't been careless. He hadn't been lazy. He had been desperate. He had been a father trying to save his child's life. "Dear God," William whispered, "what have I done?" He thought about his own children. George, Charlotte, and Louis. If one of them was sick, what would he do? He would do anything. Pay anything. Sacrifice anything. That's exactly what Thomas had done. He had sacrificed his sleep, his health, his career, everything. And William had punished him for it. For the first time since becoming a royal, William felt truly ashamed. "Edward," William said, "I need Thomas Bennett's address. And I need a car. An unmarked car. No driver. Just me." Edward's eyes widened. "Your Highness, you can't just." "I can and I will," William said. "This is my responsibility. I need to fix this." That evening, William drove himself to Thomas's apartment building. He wore regular clothes. A jacket and jeans. A baseball cap pulled low over his face. He didn't want anyone to recognize him. He climbed the stairs to apartment number 12. His heart was beating fast. He had faced world leaders and given speeches to thousands. But this felt harder. He knocked on the door. Thomas opened it. His eyes went wide with shock when he saw who was standing there. Your Highness." Thomas stammered. "What are you doing here? May I come in?" William asked quietly. Thomas stepped aside, still looking confused. William walked into the small apartment. It was clean but old. Toys were scattered on the floor. Children's drawings covered the walls. Sarah came out of the kitchen. She gasped when she saw Prince William. "Please," William said, "don't be alarmed. I came to talk. Just talk." They all sat down at the small kitchen table. It was strange. A prince sitting in a tiny apartment with people he had fired just days ago. "I owe you an apology," William said. He looked directly at Thomas. "I made a terrible mistake. I didn't know about your daughter. I didn't know what you were going through." Thomas looked down at his hands. "The rules are the rules, Your Highness. I broke them. I accept the consequences." "No," William said firmly. "The rules exist to protect people, not to punish them for trying to save their children. I should have asked questions. I should have investigated. I should have shown compassion." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. William continued. "I read your file. Your record was perfect. 5 years of excellent service. Then suddenly you start making mistakes. Any good leader should have asked why. But I didn't. I just acted." "You were doing your duty," Thomas said quietly. "No," William shook his head. "I was following protocol without thinking. There's a difference. My grandmother, the Queen, once told me something. She said that being royal isn't about wearing a crown. It's about serving people. Really seeing them. Understanding them." He pulled out an envelope from his jacket. "I can't give you your job back. Not immediately. That would look like I'm bending rules because of public pressure. But I can do something else." He placed the envelope on the table. "This is a check. It will cover your daughter's treatment for the next year. All of it." Thomas stared at the envelope. He couldn't speak. "Also," William continued, "I've spoken to the Royal Foundation. We're starting a new fund to help families of palace employees who face medical emergencies. It will be called the Emma Bennett Fund." Sarah started crying. Not tears of sadness. Tears of relief. Of gratitude. Of disbelief. "Why are you doing this?" Thomas asked. His voice cracked. William stood up. He looked at the drawings on the wall. One showed a girl holding her father's hand. "Because I'm a father too. And I understand what you did. You didn't fail your duty. You put your daughter first. That's not weakness. That's courage." He turned back to Thomas. "In 6 months, when things settle down, if you want your job back, it's yours. But take this time. Be with your daughter. Help her get better. That's more important than standing guard at any palace." Thomas stood up. Tears ran down his face. He didn't know what to say. William extended his hand. "I'm sorry, Thomas. Truly sorry." Thomas shook his hand. Thank you, Your Highness. Thank you. Just then a small voice came from the hallway. Daddy? Who's here? Emma walked out. She was small and thin. She wore pajamas with stars on them. Her blonde hair was messy from sleep. William bent down to her level. Hello, Emma. I'm William. I'm a friend of your daddy's. Emma smiled shyly. Are you really a prince? William smiled. Yes, I am. Cool, Emma said. Then she looked at her father. Daddy, why are you crying? Thomas picked her up and held her close. Because sometimes, sweetheart, good things happen when you least expect them. William quietly left the apartment. As he walked down the stairs, he felt different. Lighter somehow. He had made a mistake. But he had fixed it. That's what true leadership meant. Outside, the night air was cold. William looked up at the stars. Tomorrow he would face the media. He would explain his actions. Some people would criticize him. Others would praise him. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, a little girl could get the treatment she needed. Tonight, a father could sleep without worry. Tonight, things were right again. The next morning, Buckingham Palace called an emergency press conference. Reporters from around the world gathered outside. Cameras lined up in rows. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. Prince William walked out to the podium. He wore a dark suit. His face was serious but calm. The crowd went quiet. Good morning, William began. I'm here to address the situation regarding Thomas Bennett, the Royal Guard who was dismissed earlier this week. Reporters leaned forward. Cameras flashed. This was the moment everyone was waiting for. I made a mistake, William said clearly. A serious mistake. I saw a guard who wasn't performing his duties correctly, and I acted immediately. But I didn't ask the most important question. Why? He paused. The silence was heavy. Had I asked that question, I would have learned that Thomas Bennett was working 2 jobs. Not for luxury. Not for greed. But to pay for his 7-year-old daughter's cancer treatment. He was exhausted because he was being a good father. And I punished him for it. Some reporters gasped. Others started writing quickly. William continued. The Royal Guard has strict rules for good reasons. Safety is paramount. But rules should never blind us to human compassion. As leaders, we must enforce standards while also understanding the people who serve under us. He looked directly into the cameras. Thomas Bennett is not the villain in this story. I am. I failed to see a man who was struggling. I failed to ask questions before acting. For that, I am deeply sorry. The crowd erupted with questions. William raised his hand. I have already met with Mr. Bennett and his family. I have apologized personally. The Royal Foundation will cover all of his daughter Emma's medical expenses for the next year. Additionally, we are creating the Emma Bennett Emergency Fund, which will help all palace employees and their families who face similar medical crises. More camera flashes. More shouting questions. Furthermore, William said, his voice growing stronger, we are reviewing all employment policies across the royal household. We will implement new procedures that require supervisors to investigate sudden performance changes before taking disciplinary action. We will also provide better support systems for employees facing personal hardships. A reporter shouted, Will Thomas Bennett get his job back? William nodded. Mr. Bennett has been offered his position back with full honors, once his daughter's treatment is complete and he feels ready to return. But that decision is entirely his. Right now, his place is with his family. Another reporter asked, What does this teach us about the royal family? William took a deep breath. It teaches us that we are human. We make mistakes. But what matters is how we respond to those mistakes. Do we hide behind titles and protocols? Or do we admit when we're wrong and try to make things right? I choose the latter. The press conference ended. But the impact was just beginning. Within hours, the story spread across the world. But this time, the headlines were different. Prince William admits mistake, shows true leadership. Royal apology demonstrates courage and compassion. Prince takes responsibility, helps family in need. Social media exploded with positive reactions. People who had criticized William now praised him. They said he showed real character by admitting his mistake. This is what leadership looks like, one person wrote. He could have made excuses, but he took responsibility, another said. The royal family just became more human to me, someone else posted. The hashtag changed from hashtag JusticeForThomas to hashtag Real Leadership. Back in the small apartment, Thomas and Sarah watched the press conference on their old television. Emma sat between them, not fully understanding but sensing something important was happening. He really did it, Sarah whispered. He stood up there and admitted he was wrong. Thomas wiped his eyes. Not many people in power would do that. The phone rang constantly. Friends and family called to congratulate them. Strangers sent messages of support. The story had touched something deep in people's hearts. 2 days later, Emma had her doctor appointment. This time, Thomas and Sarah didn't worry about how to pay. The money was there. The treatment could continue. The doctor examined Emma carefully. "Her numbers are improving," he said with a smile. "The treatment is working. If we stay on track, I'm very optimistic about her recovery." Sarah grabbed Thomas's hand and squeezed it tight. Those were the words they had prayed to hear for months. Emma looked up at her parents. "Does this mean I'm getting better?" Thomas picked her up and hugged her. "Yes, baby girl. You're getting better." Emma smiled. "Good. Because I have a lot of drawings I still want to make." 6 months passed. Emma's health improved dramatically. Her tumor was shrinking. Her energy returned. She went back to school full-time. She laughed and played like a normal 7-year-old should. Thomas received a formal letter from Buckingham Palace. His position as Royal Guard was waiting for him whenever he was ready. But Thomas took his time. He spent those months with Emma, taking her to school, reading her bedtime stories, playing in the park, making up for all the time he had lost while working 2 jobs. The Emma Bennett Emergency Fund helped 12 other families in its first year. Palace employees who faced medical emergencies no longer had to suffer in silence or work themselves to exhaustion. Prince William personally met with each family. He listened to their stories. He made sure they got the help they needed. One afternoon, Thomas returned to Buckingham Palace. Not as a guard yet, just to visit. William had invited him for tea. They sat in a private room. No cameras. No reporters. Just 2 men who had learned important lessons. "How is Emma?" William asked. "She's doing wonderful," Thomas said. "The doctors say if things continue like this, she'll make a full recovery." William smiled. "I'm so glad. And you? Are you ready to come back?" Thomas nodded. "Yes, I think I am. But this time I know I have support. I know I can ask for help if I need it." "That's exactly right," William said. "We all need help sometimes. Admitting that isn't weakness. It's wisdom." They talked for an hour. About fatherhood. About duty. About the balance between rules and compassion. As Thomas left the palace that day, he looked at the guards standing at their posts. He would soon stand there again. But he would be different now. He had learned that being strong doesn't mean never struggling. It means having the courage to keep going even when things are hard. Prince William watched from a window as Thomas walked away. He thought about his grandmother's words again. Being royal isn't about wearing a crown. It's about serving people. Really seeing them. He had learned that lesson the hard way. But he had learned it. 3 months later, Thomas returned to duty. He wore his red uniform and tall black hat with pride. But things were different now. The other guards knew his story. They respected him even more. On his first day back, Prince William walked past during inspection. He stopped and looked at Thomas. "Welcome back, Guard Bennett," William said formally. "Thank you, Your Highness," Thomas replied. They exchanged a look of understanding, of respect, of forgiveness. As William walked away, Thomas stood tall. His uniform was perfect. His posture was correct. But more importantly, his heart was full. His daughter was healthy. His job was restored. His dignity was intact. Sometimes, he thought, the hardest moments in life lead to the greatest blessings. That evening, Thomas came home to find Emma doing homework at the kitchen table. She looked up and smiled when she saw him in his uniform. "You look like a hero again, Daddy," she said. Thomas hugged her. "You know what, sweetheart? We're all heroes. Your mommy for being strong when things were hard. You for being brave through your treatment. And even Prince William for having the courage to admit when he was wrong." "What about you, Daddy?" Emma asked. Thomas smiled. "Me? I'm just a man who loves his family very much." And that, Thomas realized, was the most important thing of all. The story of the prince and the Royal Guard spread far beyond England. It was told in schools and homes. It was used as an example in leadership classes. It became a reminder that everyone makes mistakes. But what matters is having the courage to make things right. Years later, people would still talk about it, not as a scandal, but as a story of redemption, of compassion, of humanity. It taught the world that titles don't make you a good leader. Character does. It showed that admitting mistakes takes more courage than hiding them. It proved that sometimes the most powerful thing a person can say is simply, "I was wrong." And most importantly, it reminded everyone that behind every rule, Every protocol and every uniform, there's a human being with hopes, fears, and struggles. We just have to take the time to see them.